Hey guys, Scott from Fry Props, and today we are going to be doing a pretty cool project. We're going to be creating an escape game puzzle using the new Escape Keeper controller and some RFID triggers and this chessboard. What we're going to be doing is using RFID triggers to create a puzzle where players have to place specific chess pieces on specific tiles of the chessboard. So we're going to go through the RFID units, how those work, how to attach them to the chess pieces, how to wire them up to the Escape Keeper, and program the Escape Keeper so that the puzzle will work when the players correctly place the pieces on the chessboard. So let's get started, and here we go. Okay, so the first thing we want to look at is the chessboard itself. We chose this chessboard because it's fairly large and the bases of the pieces are also large. We're going to need to conceal the RFID chips on these pieces, so we want to make sure they're big enough, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I think for the ease of this puzzle, we're just going to do two pieces for this demonstration, and we're just going to use the white queen and the black king. And what we'll do is we'll just require them to be placed on these two squares here. Of course, if you're doing this yourself, you can have, with the Escape Keeper, up to 8 different pieces that need to be placed correctly. And you can even have it so that a real game needs to be played. Of course, these aren't legal first moves, but just for the ease of demonstration in this video, I think we'll go with that. So the first step will be to take a look at our RFID sensors to get them placed onto the pieces themselves. Then we will get the receivers placed on the board, and we'll get everything wired up. So we're going to take the board, move it aside, and take a look at the RFID triggers and the pieces that we need to attach them to. Okay, so this is a look at the RFID units we'll be using today. If you're new to RFID, what that stands for is radio frequency identification. And the reason that we're using these is because unlike a proximity or a magnetic sensor, these use a unique radio frequency code in order to trigger. So what we're looking at here is the control box. This is the actual sensor. Units will come with a couple of these key fobs. This is the relay that's attached to the unit, so it's like a switch. And these are the power wires where power comes into the unit. So the way that these work is that when the correct fob is placed near the sensor, it will trigger the unit and switch the relay. So unlike a magnetic sensor where any magnet or magnetic device would trigger this, the only thing that will trigger this RFID unit is this unique sensor that's included with the unit. Let's go ahead and power this up so that you can see how it works. When we do the final puzzle, I'll be powering these units through the Escape Keeper controller, but for now I'm just going to apply power directly to the unit. So I'm going to take the 2 power wires, red is positive, black is negative. I'm going to use this little adapter here, plug them into a power supply, get it powered up so that we can check it out. Okay, so the unit's powered on, and these units include a red LED that just shows that the unit's powered on and ready to go. You can see here that the relay also has an indicator that it's powered on and ready. So if we take the fob and place it near the sensor, it will switch the relay. As I mentioned before, the reason that we're using RFID in this case is because we want the chess pieces to be unique. We only want them to trigger when the right piece is on the right tile. So if I were to take, say, a fob from a different RFID unit, you'll notice that nothing happens. That's because the only thing that will trigger this is this uniquely coded RFID key. So by using any number of these that we want, up to a maximum of 8 with the current Escape Keeper, we can create a puzzle where the different chess pieces need to be placed on the correct tiles of the chessboard. So the next step will be to take this key fob and take the chip that's inside of it and attach it to the chess piece. So let's do that now. Okay, so here we are ready to take the RFID chip and apply it to the chess piece, one of the chess pieces we're going to be using. Another reason that we chose this chess set is because the pieces have a felt section on the underside. So we should be able to just remove this easily and then place the chip underneath it and reapply it so that players can't tell the difference between a piece that has a chip on it and one that doesn't. So the first thing we're going to need to do is remove the felt from the underside of the chess piece. To do that, I have a razor blade here. And we're just going to take the razor blade and cut the felt off of the piece. Okay, so we have the felt off here. A little bit of damage there, but I think that should be fine. The next step will be to take the key fob and access the chip that's inside of it. So when you get these, you can see they're inside of a little plastic case. And to get them out, we just take our little screwdriver here, find the seam, and press the screwdriver in. And once we get it in, we should be able to use it as a kind of wedge to pop the pieces apart and pull the unit open. So now you can see that there's actually a disc inside of here, and this is the actual RFID chip itself. So we just need to pop that out. Sometimes you might need to use the screwdriver to get into the edge, or you might need to bend the plastic itself, kind of pop it out. Or a combo of the two, there we go. So now we have the chip itself out, and you can see it's actually quite slim, which is good for our purposes here. So the next step will be to actually take this and glue it to the bottom of the chest piece. We're just gonna use a little bit of super glue for that. Okay. All right, and that'll bond quickly. And the next step will be to just take the felt that we removed and reapply it to the chest piece. So we'll just do a couple dabs of glue. Maybe a little around here. Take our felt and reapply. And we'll kind of do the best we can to clean up this area where we sort of chop the felt a little bit. And if you're being really fastidious, you could even come along and trim this up. But I think for our purposes here, this will be just fine. Okay, so now we have the RFID chip attached to one of our chest pieces. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the RFID unit that is associated with this chest piece, and I'm going to label the relay so that I know that this unit is the one associated with this chest piece. So this is a white queen, so I'm just going to mark this relay with a WQ. Okay, and so that way now we know that this is the chest piece that is associated with this relay. So when we go to attach the relays to the chessboard, we know which one to put where. I'll go ahead and I'll do the same to the black king that we're going to be using, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we have our two chest pieces now with the RFID chips installed. We have our two separate RFID units, the white queen and the black king. And the next step will be to attach the sensors from the units to the underside of the chessboard. So let's do that now. So another reason that we chose this board is you can see it has a pretty deep undercut here. So that will allow us room to place the sensors and still have the board lie flat. So let's go ahead and let's tip it up on its side. And we'll just go ahead and find our squares. So this is D4. And D4 is the white queen. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the sensor for that RFID, and we're just going to attach it to the back of the chessboard corresponding to the correct tile. And I'm just going to super glue that in place. You could screw it on or place it more permanently if you wanted to, but for this demo I'm just going to super glue it. Okay, and for the black king, we wanted to use E5, so we can actually just see here E5 is right there. So we can go ahead and place that second sensor. Okay, looks lined up pretty good. Okay, so we'll just let those sensors dry in place with the glue, and we'll go ahead and flip the unit over and start wiring up to our controller. Okay, so we have our RFID units attached to the board. Here's our controller. Now we just need to attach the RFIDs to the controller. And luckily enough, in the manual, there's a diagram for connecting RFID units to the escape keeper. So we'll go ahead and just follow that wiring diagram, get this all wired up and ready to go. Okay, so the next step is to connect the RFID units to the controller. We're also going to power the units through the controller. So to do that, we need to connect the power output from the escape keeper to the RFID units. So looking at our diagram here, Looks like to do that, we're going to need a couple of wires going into the 12-volt DC positive port here. So I have a couple of pre-cut lengths of 22 gauge low voltage wire here. We're just going to take 2 of them into the positive here. And then we're also going to need a wire into the negative port, so I have another little length here that we're going to put there. So one of the 2 power wires is actually just a jumper wire over to the input terminals. So we're going to take one of the wires from the positive of the power into the common of the first section of inputs here. The other positive voltage wire is going to interface with the positive voltage wires for the RFID units. So we're just going to twist those all together. And we're going to use a wire nut to secure those. The wire into the negative terminal of the power is also going to interface with the negative power wires from the RFID units. But we're going to include another little wire since we need to jump out to the relays with that as well. So we're going to bundle all these together. And twist them up. And another wire nut here. Okay, so now we have the power all set up and we just need to interface the relays with the controller. So like any standard relay, this relay has 3 terminals: a normally closed terminal, a common terminal, and a normally open terminal. What we want to do is basically interface the common and the normally open terminal to one of the inputs so that when this relay closes, it will trigger the desired input. Since we're using 2 relays, we're actually going to bridge them together by connecting the common terminals via the negative power wire. So I have a small piece of wire here. I'm just going to go ahead and place this from the common terminal of one relay to the common terminal of the other. And as I bring this wire into the second relay, that's also where the spare wire from our negative power wire bundle is going to go. So those 2 wires can get twisted together and inserted into the common of the second relay here. Okay, so we have our relays bridged via the negative power here. Now all we have to do is connect the normally open terminal to the desired input. So let's go ahead and have our black king be input 1 and the white queen be input 2. So to do that, I'm just going to take a couple lengths of wire and go from the normally open to 1 and the normally open of the other relay to 2. Okay, so that's our wiring complete. Again, there's a diagram of this in the manual in case some of that was a little bit tough to follow. So let's go ahead and power it up and give it a test. Okay, the unit is powered up, so we can go ahead and test it by placing the black king on E5 and the white queen on D4. we can go ahead now and program the controller to accept this as the solution to our puzzle. Okay, so we have our RFIDs hooked up to the controller. We have our sensors placed under the board. We have our chess pieces with our chips inserted and ready to go. So the last thing we have to do is program the controller. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to be using the input state match feature of the Escape Keeper, which means that players just have to match the input state of the solution to whatever we program. So to do that, we're just going to place our pieces on the tiles that are our solution tiles. We're going to tap the record button. The unit will save that solution. And that's it. For the purposes of the demo, we've also attached a magnetic lock here to the controller. So once we hit play on the controller, it'll start playing in its game state. The lock will shut. And once the pieces are placed on the correct tiles, the lock will open. Once we remove the tiles, we can reset the controller and it's ready to play again. So you can see here that if we put the pieces in the wrong positions, nothing happens. The pieces must be in the correct positions in order to activate the controller and release the lock. So that's a quick overview of setting up a chess puzzle using RFID triggers and the new Escape Keeper controller. If you have any questions, as always, leave a comment on this video or send us an email at sales@frightprops.com. Thanks.
Hey guys, Scott from Fright Props here. We are actually coming to you live from the, well, not live, but we're coming to you from the Escape Game Show in Niagara Falls. And I actually wanted to tag this on to my video of making the chessboard prop and just show you one other thing that I did later that you could also do if you're building a similar prop. So I'm going to turn the camera around, we'll take a look at the puzzle, and we will check it out. Thanks. Okay, so we are actually hanging out at the Escape Game Show in Niagara Falls, and we are going to take a look at our puzzle prop that we were working on earlier, and I added a couple of features to it that I just wanted to demo real quick. So I actually added a third RFID sensor. You can see those down here. And in this case, I'm actually using a mode of the controller that tracks the sequence of inputs. So you actually have to do the moves in a certain order. So it's not about just placing the pieces on the right squares. You also have to place them in the correct order. So I'm going to go ahead and start the game. And you can see if I do the wrong move first.
Move taken out of turn. Reset pieces and try again.
It'll actually tell me that I did the wrong move. So what the sequence it's actually looking for is this move first.
Correct.
Then this move.
Correct.
And then this move.
Success. You have solved the puzzle.
So that's just a quick final overview of one of the other things you can do using the Escape Keeper controller and RFID sensors in a chessboard. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and send us an email at frightprops.com or leave a comment on this video. Thanks a lot. Bye.